love getting a peek into what other people do with their tarot cards, how they implement like a daily or weekly practice, and kind of like seeing how other people explore their spiritual path and spiritual journey. If you guys are anything like me, you are probably incredibly interested in other people's tarot practice. Now, I know I've been talking to you guys about my daily and weekly practice because it's changed so much. I did have like a daily routine video I did a few years ago, and my practice has like grown and changed and evolved so much since then, and I don't do all of that anymore. But I know that I was telling you guys about this when I gave you my yearly practice video, and a lot of you showed a lot of interest in seeing what I do, so I thought I would just kind of like give you a little peek. Now, this is an incredibly raw, like non-performative version of this because I am exhausted. The holiday season is over as I'm filming this, and I'm just tired, and honestly, I probably could have waited till a different day to do it, but I didn't, so like, I had considered decorating my tabletop, making it all cute and stuff, and bringing out the incense and showing you guys like just like an over-the-top, exaggerated, spiritual, cozy video. But to be honest, that is not how my daily practice looks like at all whatsoever. My bi-weekly, weekly-ish practice doesn't even look like that. Yes, sometimes I like to bring out the incense or some sage or something, or light a candle. Sometimes I get really heavily into the junk journaling, or I decorate my little like tabletop here, but to be honest, the majority of the time I don't do that, and the majority of the time I don't even decorate the journal very much either. So today I will be doing a decorating the journal thing because I just kind of want to, but honestly, like, all the bells and whistles, it's just not something that is feasible in my daily practice, so I don't do it daily, and I just more of like a rare occasion kind of thing. So I'm trying to keep it very like real for you guys, and just show you what my practice genuinely looks like day in and day out. Now, I will say this is a little weird because I'm doing both my morning and my evening practice all at once, like combined right now for the video, but it also is the middle of the day, so if I would have been doing this normally, my daily, like my morning practice would have happened earlier this morning after breakfast, and my evening one would happen right before I go to bed. But because of the way I wanted to film this, it's all kind of happening at once, but it's the middle of the day, so like, does that count? Like, I'm kind of, you know, one's late, one's early, like, is that alright? I don't know. Anyway, before we launch into the daily practice, I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that I am a professional psychic and tarot reader. I am also a published author, and if you guys want to check out any of my work, I will leave links down in the description bar below. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up to a blank page. I honestly had thought about showing you guys a different page, but these can get really personal, and I didn't really want to, I guess, have my whole life, like, put out on the internet. So we're just going to start anew. I actually have, like, a blank page here, but again, I didn't want the other one to be seen, so it is what it is. What I'm going to do is, first, I'm going to decorate the page, funny enough, and then we will do the practice, the reading. Sometimes what I'll do is I will actually do the reading first, and then I will go back and decorate like around it, and sometimes I decorate around it first. But today I'm feeling like decorating first. We're going to go on this side. I'm not going to use this page, to be honest. I'm going to kind of move my little washi tapes out of the way, so that way this is more central. I know part of it might get cut off, but I'm just going to kind of put this to like some music and just kind of speed it up. But if you guys want to watch it, you can. Otherwise, skip forward and we'll get to the actual practice. So I'll see you in a sec. There we go. So that is all done. Yes, I'm aware this is sticking up. It probably will continue to do so. But this is my little setup for my reading. So we're going to go ahead and do the morning reading first, and I'll show you guys what decks I used for that. So for my morning readings, I use the Sublime Thresholds Tarot and the Citadel Oracle. And the way that I do this is I start with the Sublime Thresholds. So this is a curated art deck published by Urania Press, and I'm trying to figure out what the author's name was. It is indie, and I believe, at least at the time I'm filming this, there's a second print run, but it might be over by the time this is posted. Natasha Rowland, that's who did the text. There is a bigger guidebook that comes with it, but I don't have that guidebook. There is also these extra cards as well, but I don't really use these, as gorgeous and wonderful as they are. I don't use these in my morning reading. I did at one point, and it just wasn't quite the same vibe. It wasn't quite what I needed. What I will do is pull one card from this deck. So I'll show you some of the art from it. It's beautiful. I love it. But what I really love about this, aside from the fun, funky art, and of course, like, just how luxurious it is, to be honest, I love the Sublime Code and the archetypal energy associated with it. Sorry, I'm a little distracted right now, guys. But yeah, I really enjoy that. So that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle this up like I would. Again, this can be very simple to do in the mornings, and that's the goal. The goal of my morning routine is to make it simple so I actually do it. Because the more complicated it is, the less likely I am to do it. Do I junk journal every day? No. Do I add stickers and such? Sometimes in hindsight. To be honest, it kind of just depends. So I'm going to go ahead. I probably should have moved this up, to be honest, but there's not really a way to do it now. But my evening is going to be more involved, so it might spill over to this page. If it does, that's fine. I will add more stickers. All right, let's go ahead. It's a little stiff for me for cardstock. So I do have trouble shuffling it, but like not so much trouble that I hate using it. Alright, we have Queen of Swords. So this would be my card for the day. It actually looks beautiful with the aesthetic we've got going, so that's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my journal. So what I will do, and then there is the Sublime Code and the Greek word or the archetype. So I'm going to go ahead and underline. And then what I do is I read a little piece from the guidebook that stands out to me. So I'm going to read the Queen of Swords entry here. So it says, I'm going to put her back. Sovereign, so this is the meaning of the card. Sovereign ability above the mundane, grace under pressure, logic and intellect. She can wield both the light and the dark, calm and collected, decisiveness, set boundaries, sense of justice, cool and detached, gathering research, clarity, solid and truthful communication, wisdom, lone survivor, fights for freedom. Sublime code, heights. It says, dizzyingly expansive, on the verge of vertigo, yet breathless with the grandeur of existence, terror and awe entwined, transcendent altitudes, proximity to gods, and peak moments. And the archetype is clarity. Well, I think it's Sapphenia. I'm not really sure how to say that. But it says, calmly piercing the light of gnosis and understanding. The seer is illumined by insight, discernment, truth, and revelation, brandishing the sword of truth of what is essential and real. So I'm going to pick out some parts of that stand out to me for my day. Keep in mind I have a little bit of like hindsight, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So let's see here. So I chose transcendent altitudes, proximity to gods, and peak moments, and calmly piercing the light of gnosis. That is the words that stood out to me the most, that felt like something to me. Okay, readjusting my camera there. Alright. But yeah, that is what stood out to me about it, and to be honest, I use tarot very spiritually. It's very much a spiritual practice throughout the day, and less so of a self-discovery thing. So that's also why I chose what I chose. I don't know if this is the energy I should be carrying into today. I think it kind of makes sense given some other things that happened before this moment. Also, I apologize for the shadows and the weird lighting. It is such a gloomy day outside, and I'm a hot mess. I have been a hot mess for months now. So anyway, we'll move on. We're just gonna roll with it. All right, and now I have this. So this is my daily pull. I'm mostly looking at that one as tarot, as a meaning, and as I guess you could say, the energy that I'm harnessing. And this, I use the Citadel as a tool. So what I do with the Citadel is I also use the guidebook. And I'm not a big guidebook girly, but somehow I became a guidebook girly for this practice. But I use the Citadel Oracle, and instead of looking at it as archetypes, I look at the image and what is depicted. These, like, the tool here could be the cups, for example. Or my tool here is a snake or a hare, a bell. So I will use that and see what it means to me. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my daily tool. I will admit these cards are a little tricky to shuffle. Not terrible, a little tricky though. Alright, I guess it's that one. Funny enough, that was the one that stood out to me earlier when I read it, so the guide. And then yes, there are keywords inheritance and correction, which I might write down, but really I'm interested in the bell. So I'm going to stick it over here, and they don't vibe, they don't look that great together, but that's not the point. So I'm gonna write this down. Alright, so the guide. Beneath the thundering echo of a waterfall, a bell rings, clear and compelling, commanding the attention of all close enough to hear. Almost without thinking, you feel your feet turn you towards the waters and the figure beneath. The guide has inherited their position, and the path they walk has been predetermined. It is their role to correct the mistakes made by their predecessor and set things to rights. You're in a situation that isn't ideal, but it's up to you to make the most of it. Holding a grudge against what led you here won't achieve anything. It's time to accept the cards you've been dealt. Once you're on the other side of this, you'll be better placed to reflect on what you've learned from the past. But for now, it's time to put in some hard work and push through. And the reversed meaning is, after a long struggle to put things right, not helped by others, you have found confidence in your ability to overcome whatever's next. Take a moment to congratulate yourself on your perseverance and make room in your life for the next challenge. I feel like both meanings are honestly fitting. I think it came up reversed when I pulled it. But honestly, I kind of feel like both are fitting given some things going on right now that are completely consuming my thoughts. And I don't want to talk about it too much yet. But it is there. And so I think I know what this is about. But I'm going to go ahead and kind of keep it vague. I'm going to write down the word the bell because that is what I have picked up for the symbol. and then I'm going to quote, which I know I put that in quotes, but I'm going to quote out some of my favorite things. So give me a second. So what I ended up going with for this one was accept the cards that you've been dealt and make the most of your situation. Now, make the most of your situation is not a direct quote from the guidebook, but I thought it was fitting for this. And with the two of them, I think that calmly piercing the light of gnosis, the calmly part, really blends with this. And I think for my current situation, there is an unexpected thing that has come up in my life that I have to deal with, and I don't want to, but I also do want to, but the timing is terrible. It's just a hot mess is what it is. And so I'm thinking about it a lot because of how today has been. But I think this is kind of a reminder to act with clarity, to act calmly, to be decisive, make a decision, and just own it. And accept that what is, and there's not much I can do about that beyond that. So I'm really, I'm taking away that message, and technically I would write what this means to me as of right now. I'm actually going to date my reading really quick, and then this is really going to date the video because I have a couple other videos I'm planning to schedule, so this is really going to date my video, but it is December 28th. Right now as I'm filming this, so I know you guys are gonna be like, oh my god, that's old. Yeah, I know, I'm aware. I am batch filming as much as I can before this baby comes. So I am going to write down probably a little note to myself. So I'm gonna say, so this is the extent of the morning reading. It's simply the setup, and then one card, and then my guide, or not my guide, my tool. And so that is really as simple as it gets. And I do think I'm going to purchase the guidebook at some point, because I think that would really deepen these readings. But because I use the guidebook, I don't normally do that in my tarot practice, but I find the subliminal code is more powerful than the meaning of the card in and of itself. And I'm really enjoying that time that I get to spend with the deck, looking at it from that lens. And then, of course, I completely spun this on its head. It took me forever to find a daily practice that worked, a morning practice in particular that worked. I took so long. I knew that I wanted a tarot deck and an oracle, but I didn't really have an oracle deck that felt right. And I tried and tried and tried with my Citadel oracle, and the archetypes just weren't hitting, and they were butting heads with archetypes in the Sublime Thresholds tarot. And so I was really struggling to find something that fit, and I believe I was watching Don Michelle's wrap-up video for the year, and or maybe it was something else. Maybe it was a monthly video from a few months ago. But she was using this one deck, which its name escapes me, but it had these like little cards, and they were little like items, and they were like tools and things. And she called them commas, I think, in between her reading, and so that little thing was like a comma, what led to the next thing, or like something that, like, what does a bone mean to you, and how does that connect the two cards, or the two energies. And I liked that idea of a tool. So to me, I viewed it more as like a tool, as something you could use. And I was really inspired, and I liked that deck, but I don't have it. And I don't really have anything like it. I really wanted something where I had like a tool, but I could not find a deck that really fit my needs, that really spoke to me. And then I pulled out my Citadel again, and I was like, what if I look at the card picture and look at the item depicted in the picture rather than thinking of the archetype? That's ultimately what changed it for me. Like, now I can see the enchanter and look at bones or skeleton or the eye, whatever that is. Look at the gambler and talk about dice or cards. Look at the astronomer and talk about stars or the moon. And I think having the tool, having the birds here, having the sword and the crown. Like, it just, the ribbons. It changed the way that I viewed the deck and the way that I use it in the mornings. And so for me, like, today's reading with the bell, what does a bell mean to me? And for me, a bell is about cleansing. It's about, I guess it could be about guiding, if I think about it through that lens. I think it's more melodic, and a bell is sweet and cheerful, and so even if things are not going well, I find it very cheerful, and it makes me think of fairies, maybe because of Tinkerbell, I don't know. But yeah, that really, really helped. And then with the Sublime Thresholds Tarot, I originally did not have this, I don't think, when I first started my daily practice, but what happened was I was using other decks for daily readings, and it wasn't really going the way that I hoped. Like, again, like, they were just kind of like, it was just generic RWS meanings attributed to them, honestly. And eventually I just changed the way that I was using it and really went into the guidebook. And this was the deck, I think, that made me go into guidebooks more, which is probably why I should purchase the actual full guidebook since I use it, since I'm using the little one. But, oh, look at that Hierophant. But, like, hollowed for the Hierophant. What an interesting code. And I really liked the archetype energy associated with them as well. I really love what Natasha chose for these. It really expanded upon the meanings, and I found it more useful than a traditional tarot for my mornings, especially because I think it was more, I don't know, it's just different. It's a different way of looking at the energy of the card, and I find that the two together just work really well, giving me a potent yet simplistic reading that I can carry with me throughout the day. Like, I'm going to be thinking of the word clarity throughout the day. I'm going to be thinking of the bell. And originally I was going to do these, the evening reading back to back with this, but I think I'm going to take a break here. For you guys, it'll be seconds, but I will come back and we will talk about my evening reading. It'll probably be a little bit darker when I do that, but that's alright. I have a few things I need to get done today, but yeah, I just wanted to point that out because it was a journey to do this, but it was more of a journey to figure out my bedtime routine. Alright, we are back. It is evening. Lighting, again, kind of weird, I know, but hopefully my shadow isn't too crazy. I do have another light that I'm trying to use to illuminate the space. So one thing I forgot to mention earlier was how my daily practice changed slightly, but not as much as my evening. So my evening practice was actually the first thing I started doing, and then I started implementing a morning practice. So with my morning practice, before I was using the Sublime Thresholds Tarot, before I was using that tarot deck, I wanted to do like a daily affirmation, and so I was using the Spacious Tarot in the mornings because I absolutely adore this deck. It's been one of my like go-to decks recently. I find the Spacious Tarot to just be so cute, easy to read. I just really enjoy it. I'm just going to show you some of the cards here. I really, really love this deck. And it's soft. It speaks to like some gentle part of me. I have a whole deep dive on my channel of this deck. I say deep dive. I really need to like, I guess it's a walkthrough. It's a walkthrough where we really look at every single card, but I need to do like deep dives working with it. It's one of those decks that like I didn't really think I was going to absolutely adore, but then I did. And I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to put this in my daily practice at the time because I was gravitating toward it so much for a little while. And I mean, I still kind of am. I'm not going to lie. I'm still gravitating towards this deck. It is an indie deck, and I believe it's out of print now, but I was gravitating towards this deck kind of a lot, and I still am in some ways, but I also have a bunch of new decks that I've been playing around with, so it kind of just depends, right? But I was using this in the mornings because I wanted to be part of my daily practice, and I was specifically asking for an affirmation. So, long story short, I would shuffle it. We'll just say I picked this card. We got Death reversed. So I would say, okay, the affirmation there would be an affirmation for death reversed, which for death reversed, it's like you're not letting go of something that you need to, or something has come to an end and you're really fighting it. So I guess I would say an affirmation could be, I accept that this chapter of my life needs to end. I'm accepting that this thing in my life needs to come to a close. I'm accepting that it's over. I'm accepting that it's gone, stuff like that, right? So I would do little affirmations with it, and it honestly worked really well. It was very powerful. It was, it was nice, but I wouldn't say that it was what I was looking for. Like, it wasn't quite what I wanted for my morning readings. It was and it wasn't. I did like the idea of the affirmation. I still do. But I struggled with it when it came to pairing it with my Citadel, because, again, I wanted an Oracle deck, and I really wanted one that had a tool to it. And I still haven't found the perfect Oracle, I don't think, but I also changed the way I was using the Citadel. But when I was using this with the Citadel, it was like they weren't speaking to one another. It wasn't really working. The two of them did not get along. And part of it was because I was looking at the archetype of the Citadel, and part of it was because I just don't think these two decks really, they don't get each other. So I retired this from my morning practice and moved towards the Sublime Thresholds, which like I said earlier, I'd been loving, and I love, just going into the guidebook more. And it's honestly the deck that pushed me to go into guidebooks. And I changed the way I use the Citadel. So my morning reading is usually those other two decks, but now that I'm talking about this, I'm kind of wondering if I should bring this back as a third deck. Again, they don't look good aesthetically, but maybe I should turn this into an affirmation. However, one could argue I could turn Queen of Swords from my Sublime Thresholds deck. I could use that to make the same affirmation. So Queen of Swords, I speak clearly, my mind is clear, and or I have clarity in my situation. Like, I don't know, I would have some kind of affirmation with it. I'd have to sit with it for a second, but I could probably come up with something. I feel like this one's a bit more natural for me, but also I pulled a Major Arcana, which I think is a lot easier than doing minors or quartz. But still. So I kind of do want to bring that back, now that I'm talking about it, now that I'm thinking about it. So I just wanted to mention that here because I forgot to include that earlier, and in hindsight, I didn't do a morning reading. I almost wish I would have, because Queen of Swords is about picking a direction, being decisive, choosing things, and oh my gosh, I've been a mess today. I have not stuck with things. I have not been very decisive. I've been very on the fence all day. My mind has been scattered, like very scatterbrained, so today's been crazy, and I feel like that was definitely meant for me. The guide makes more sense now in hindsight, too, that I think I needed someone to guide me, to push me along a bit more today, and that didn't really happen. So part of me wonders if that's the connection. Anyway, we're moving on to evening readings, and I went ahead and did up this page too because I have a feeling we're going to spill over. So I will show you what I do for my evening readings, and as I show you this time, I'm going to talk about how it's evolved, because remember, my evening reading, my bedtime reading, that is where it all began. That is where this all started. And truthfully, it's because I was trying to get back into tarot. If you guys have seen any of my recent videos, I fell out of tarot for myself. I have been professionally reading for people. I do have a tarot business, so I've been reading for clients. I've been reading for friends, and every now and again, I would have friends read for me, or I would do these like big readings, but I wasn't really doing a ritual, and I wasn't really studying spirituality. I wasn't doing a tarot study. My life just, everything got put on hold. And I didn't really suffer from tarot burnout as some people do, but I certainly suffered from not devoting time to something because I just felt like there wasn't any time. So things are different, and I do have time, and I do want to do this. I've prioritized this. And a lot of, time management is priority. I've prioritized this. And I'm so happy I did. But when I was trying to get back into it, I needed inspiration. I was like, how am I going to make rituals? Because whatever I had before, it didn't stick, and I didn't really feel like it was very me anymore. and I didn't want to do my daily rituals from before, and I never really had a bedtime practice. I'd done morning stuff, but I never really had a bedtime practice. Like, sometimes I did. Usually it was more journaling and less so card pulls. So I was like, I want to do something different. And I honestly wasn't even going to do morning practices. I was just going to do an evening one because I felt like I had the most time in the evening right before bed. It's the time, right, where I can reflect on my day. I can really spend time working with the tarot. And so one of my inspirations was Lisa Pepez. And I believe this video that she posted was like a year old at this point, maybe. Actually, I don't really know how old it is, but she had a video about her bedtime practice, and if I can find it again, I will leave it down below, because it's ultimately what inspired this moment. She includes multiple decks, so I don't do all, like, I think what she does, awesome, props to her. I could never. I told you guys I keep things simple. You're going to see that kind of in my bedtime reading as well. It's very simple for me, because if it's not simple, I won't do it. But she had a deck. It's like an older vintage unicorn deck, and she had said that the unicorn in this deck plays a support character, and she reads it based on the imagery, not on the card's meaning itself per se. And she looks at where the unicorn is, and her question to the universe is, where has the universe supported me today? Or where has the universe been with me today? And I thought that was beautiful. I really, really loved it. And so I kind of took that concept and tweaked it and made it my own. So I ask the question, where has spirit walked beside me today? Where has spirit influenced me today? Where has spirit shown up for me today? I could not find anything similar to the deck that she had, where there was a supporting character or image or motif, or like just something that like carried over every single card where you could see that same energy. Like I could not find anything. So I started using this deck, the Deck of Luminaries Tarot. And this is by Lumaine. It's an indie deck. I think it's still for sale. I genuinely don't know. If it is, I will leave a link below. Beautiful little indie deck. Mine's a little worn. As you can see. I'm kind of rough on my decks, but look how pretty. Oh my god, I do love this. It's the only like modern deck that I really, really enjoy, and that's why I chose it. So I chose this deck to be in my evening readings because I was like, it's modern, I want to know where the universe showed up for me, and so I'm going to use it. And at first I was using it for card meanings, so I'm just going to pull some random cards. So we'll just say, just pick that one, I guess. Sorry, I'm not shuffling very well. I'm like, where did the universe show up for me today? Ace of Wands. So maybe a new project, a new idea, some thing that I'm starting, sometime like reconnecting with my passion, whatever. I think that could make sense maybe for today, but and this is not, like, I'm not genuinely asking, so I'm just kind of pulling cards right now. But I started there, but it wasn't working. I was doing it, and like the meanings were there, but like they just didn't feel right. Like they were half right, I guess. I could make them work, but they didn't really work. And then I changed it up, and I was like, okay, I'll focus more on the imagery. So it's a modern deck, so where did the universe show up for me today? Empress Reverse, actually kind of hilarious that this one's there, but like, I am currently pregnant. I did not go to the grocery store today, but I am currently pregnant, so I don't know. I would look at the image, so I wouldn't even bother like thinking about the reversal, but I would look at the image and see where the universe showed up for me. This one actually, again, kind of works, but it wasn't perfect. And what I actually struggled with is I would get cards and they didn't make any sense. Like I would get this and I'm like, well, were there any chocolates or flowers involved for me today? Did I see a fountain today? I didn't. Did I go to the city? No. Like, that was my problem. I was like pulling these cards and I'm like, did I go to a diner today? No. Did I work today? No. And like, I could not find anything in the imagery that related to my day. And so I was like, this is just not working. So I kind of abandoned this deck, and I went on a search for a different deck, and I found one. So I found this. It took me months. I did not know this deck existed. I was searching far and wide for a deck that did what Lisa Pepez's deck was doing for her in the same way. I wanted characters that were going to repeat on the cards, that were like support characters, or some, again, repeated idea, so I could see where the universe was influencing me. So, this is the influence of the Angels Tarot. Funny. Here are the sides. It's gilded. I feel like this is going to get really worn. I'm not in love with the cardstock, to be honest. Says the US Games deck. But I wasn't really obsessed with the borders, but they're kind of starting to grow on me. But what I loved about it was that there's an angel in every single card. So 10 of Swords, there's an angel right there. 2 of Pentacles, there's an angel right there. 6 of Swords, angel right there, kind of pointing the way or something. Angel right there. And so all the cards have an angel in them. And I'm like, honestly, angels to me do represent spirit. I think that makes sense. I love that there's an angel in every card, even if it's like the card. This was what I was looking for. I needed that extra character that's in every single card that like plays a role. And so, for example, if I were to do like a bedtime reading with this deck, I'd pull like a 3 of Pentacles, and I would see these people working together, and I know what the 3 of Pentacles means. I like the imagery. I feel like that makes sense, teamwork, people working on a similar project, and then there's the angel there, maybe guiding them, helping them without them knowing, being a part of the project. They're working on the horseshoe of the horse. The angel seems to be touching the horse, so maybe this project that they're working on, which is the horse, the horseshoe, the angel has like given them this project so that they can grow close together. Like, that's kind of how I interpret these things, and it's just been perfect. It's a fabulous reader. It really gets me thinking, and it's exactly what I need. Oh my gosh. So I got 2 cards. See if those show up later. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pull one, and we're going to put it over here. So this is the first part of my nightly reading, is asking, where did spirit show up for me today? Where did spirit guide me today? Where was spirit involved in my day? And so that's how we're going to read with it. So I'll be right back. Okay. I would like everyone to know that I pulled this card. I wasn't sure that this was the right one, so I put it back, and then the deck just exploded all over me, so that's how I know that that is the right one, and I was the one being lame and not taking the deck's first choice as an answer. Okay, well, so my card is the Fool. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this is actually the first time I've had a major arcana show up as spirit. Usually it's a minor. Oh my gosh, and I got that card. Do you remember when I told you guys, like, I'm going to pull these 2? I'm just going to keep them out. Usually I get, like, something like this, like a minor, where you can, like, see the angel involved. So that's interesting that I have these 2. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. So for spirit, alright, so what do I notice about this? Okay, well, these came out at me multiple times, or at least have shown up multiple times. So I know this is the answer. So let's see. Starting a new journey, that's great, because for a while I kept getting the World card for like readings I've been doing, so I'm so happy that I'm starting a new chapter. I'm officially, over the cliff, right? Like, I'm officially, well, I guess not over the cliff. I need to jump off the cliff now, but I guess I'm out of the last book of my life. I'm out of the last chapter, moving on to the new one. So that's great. I think this is definitely like spirits guiding me, pushing me towards this way. I would say the Emperor represents probably my husband in this, and that the universe is enacting upon us in some way together, and spirit was speaking through him today, or using him to guide me today, perhaps. Again, I've never had major arcana, to be honest. In my evening reading, I knew it would happen eventually, I just didn't know what happened on camera. So that's really interesting to me, but I'm going to make note of that, because I think that is very interesting. So I'm going to say, okay. So I went ahead and just wrote a little note for myself. So that's like the extent of my journaling, is just to kind of write what I think that means for me based on my day. So Spirit was enacting upon me for my new hero's journey, in a sense. And perhaps this guide that I was supposed to have was my husband in some way. Could it be something else? Sure. But that's how I'm interpreting it. And I feel like that works. So I'm going to put this one back. And I'm going to talk about the next part of my evening practice. So like I said, first part of evening practice is Influence of the Angels Tarot, kind of inspired by Lisa Pepez, and the whole idea of like a spirit or the universe acting upon you and being that support character. And for me, it's like them being present, not necessarily supporting me, because I don't think the universe always supports me per se. I mean, it does and it doesn't. I don't know. That's my personal belief. But I just find that this works really well for that kind of concept. I will say, I also did not know Thea had loved this deck early last year. If I would have watched her older videos or like saw her deck wrap up sooner, that would have helped a lot. I'm not even joking. That would have helped so much, but it took me, I kind of found this on my own after literal months of searching. So, the next thing I tried to do is a tarot and oracle pairing. So this here is more about how the universe was supporting me or was around. The next part is, what message does the universe have for me? Now these questions, again, have evolved a little bit over time, but for the most part, that's kind of, that's what we landed on, and it's been along the same lines. So what I wanted to figure out is, what message does the universe have for me? And the first deck I was using, honestly, was the Endless Tarot. And this is a recent deck to my collection. And it was, I backed it on Kickstarter. I'm gonna put it, I guess, right there for a second. It comes with another Lover's card, but I'm not gonna show it because, I don't know, YouTube's crazy. Sure, I've shown things in the video, but I just have to be careful. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna put that off to the side. So, I started with this deck, and I'm just going to show it to you because even though I don't use it for my bedtime practice anymore, I was, and honestly, I felt like it worked really good with the Spacious Tarot in the morning, so that's one reason why I did it. But, yeah, I just started using the Endless Tarot, and I do enjoy this one. I think it's going to be wonderful for clients. I haven't totally broken it out for clients yet. It's mostly been for myself. I love the artwork on it. I'm going to try to get some that are not reversed. But yeah, I have a whole video of this on my channel if you want to look at every single card. But I was using it to ask, what message does the universe have for me? And it worked. I mean, it's a good reader. It's a potent reader, but it's not even the deck's fault. It's literally the fact that I wanted an oracle deck to go with it, and I could not for the life of me figure out what I wanted. So I started with the Endless Tarot. And then I decided to pair it with my, tried and true Wild Unknown Archetypes. So I would pair it with my Wild Unknown Archetypes. And honestly, I feel like they look decent together. Like, maybe I should make some room here for a second until I need this again. Like, they don't look bad. They really don't. They work. But it wasn't what I needed. Because even though they look good together and they work together decently, my problem was that I didn't think they were talking. Like, they weren't really vibing together. And I felt like the readings were falling flat. And then with this deck in particular, I struggle because the Wild Unknown Archetypes deck is incredibly powerful, and the guidebook is incredibly powerful. And while I love this is a shadow work deck for me. This is if you want to cry, this is that deck. If you need someone to kick your butt in gear, this is the deck. this deck is harsh. It just speaks truth, and I love the readings from it, don't get me wrong, but I just felt like every day at bedtime, this was too much. This was way too overwhelming, and genuinely did not, it just wasn't right. It just did not give me what I needed. And, I mean, it did, but maybe a little too much, right? Like, it wasn't gentle, it was very powerful, and I just don't want a powerful reading every single night before bed. It was too heavy, I wanted to do too much shadow work, too much deep diving, and I just did not think that this worked. So what did I do? I ended up pulling out a different oracle. And originally I'd considered the Citadel, because to be honest with you, the only oracles I really use are the Citadel and the Wild Unknown Archetypes. Those are my go-to oracles. I used to read Oracle, the Spirit Animal Oracle by Colette Baron Reed, and the Green Witch Oracle. I cannot see the title from where I'm sitting. But I would use those two for clients, but then I kind of like calmed down, and I don't really use Oracle for clients ever anymore, so any oracles I get from now on are going to be from me. Because I just don't find oracles helpful for client readings anymore. Sorry, I'm just gonna do my little ritual. Put it away. Oh wait, I'm not putting it away. I'm going to show you something. Okay. So, sorry guys. It's the end of the day. We'll blame that. Okay, so I ended up pulling out the Solitary Witch Oracle. I have not really used this deck much, to be honest. Well, I have now, but like at the time. At the time that I decided to pair with this, I was like, I haven't used it much. I know I have to use the guidebook, and that was what I was trying to avoid. Originally, I was trying to avoid using the guidebook because, in my mind, I don't really like to rely on guidebooks. I just don't. And to understand this one, the Maiden and the Imbolc Lamb, I would have to dive into the guidebook. But the guidebook is incredible, and it's perfect for my nighttime readings. So I ended up kind of like caving in, and I started doing that. So I would, pull an oracle card and then pull some tarot cards. And originally the tarot cards were kind of guiding the reading and the oracle was support, but it eventually turned to the oracle being the main driver and these being support. So like we have Yule's Knight here with Ace of Swords, Queen of Wands, whatever that means. And I would have to go in the guidebook again to figure out what this is and then use these as like context clues to fill myself in. Do these look beautiful together? Yes, they do. I think these decks work wonders together. I think that they do incredibly well. However, it wasn't the perfect match. As well as they look together, I don't think they're always talking to each other. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And I just wasn't totally certain. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this one away, use it, and I did use this a ton for like other readings like around that time. And I was like, I need a different deck because the Solitary Witch, I'm finding that I really enjoy it for bedtime, but it wasn't the perfect deck. And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on on what tarot deck to pair with my Solitary Witch. And I ultimately came to the Mind's Eye Tarot. Now, I think I told you guys that I used this was one of my most used decks this year, but I didn't use it for myself. I used it for clients. And I honestly thought this was going to be a really bizarre pairing. I paired so many other decks with the Solitary Witch Oracle before I ever grabbed this one. But let's just go ahead and pull. I found these two decks, not only did they look really good together, but they spoke to each other. I had some uncanny readings. This is actually kind of nice. Some really uncanny readings with these two decks. And it was, I think the very first one I did was incredibly powerful. I'll see if I have a picture of it on my phone, because I believe I do. That or I put it in my journal. Yeah. So one of the things I had was, one of the readings I had was the Four of Swords, the Sun reversed, and then She is 1,000 Flowers. And so, like, that's not these ones, but it was a reading I did have. And what was fascinating was when I was reading the guidebook entry for the Oracle, one of the things says, turn and face the sun. And the sun was over here. And I was like, oh my gosh. And like the Four of Swords was over here. And I was like, oh my goodness. A time of sun is coming to your life. Like, I was like, what? And it just like really resonated. It worked so well. And when I was reading through the rest of the entry for the guidebook, it was just magical. Like, it just pulled in everything from both, and I was just shocked by how connected the two decks were. There's that death card again. I don't know why that keeps popping up for me. This is the pairing that I ultimately went with. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to pull these cards and do a little reading with the Solitary Witch and the Mind's Eye Tarot. And I sometimes dip into the guidebook for the Mind's Eye Tarot, but it is pretty basic, in my opinion. Like, it's basic RWS meanings. So I don't really need it, but sometimes I do, just to see. So we'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and pull my cards, and then we're going to look at them, read them together, and then I'm going to journal. So, give me a second. So, we have Self-Initiation reversed, the Moon, and the King of Wands reversed. So we're going to start with our central card, which is card 14. Alright. She knew that when the time came, she would do this without others like her around. She had worked hard for a year and a day, tested herself. Could she sense the world with accuracy? Was she able to tune in to the fire, the water, the air, the earth? Could she blend the herbs into a healing ointment? Could she open her arms to the energy of the wild green world and channel it so it flowed to where it was most needed? She sat beneath the light of the full moon, began to understand the moods and shades of her energies, and followed the path of the sun. She learned how to increase energies, how to make them smaller and smaller until they were no longer of any harm. After all this, it came time to choose her path, and she already knew what it would be. So, she chose the time and the place and left it to the universe to send her the witnesses to this moment that would transcend so many others in her life. She chose to make the path of the Solitary Witch her own path. She wrote the words, memorized them carefully, and chose the spell to cast. And so, she dedicated herself to the goddess, to the path, to the universe, to the service of others, to the fulfillment of her own soul's purpose. She took on a new name that for now only she would know. The meaning is a choice, a path to choose, a ceremony to commit to a choice. And reversed, it's not acknowledging your own choices, forgetting to celebrate your achievements, or always seeking an expert opinion to validate you. I feel like this is almost like judgment in my mind. Or like the call to action, and the hero is like reluctant. Perhaps like a Bilbo moment. Bilbo Baggins. That the universe, the dedication to the path, the universe, the service of others, the fulfillment of one's soul purpose, whatever it may be. There is like this blockage to it, or resistance, or needing to feel like seeking outward validation that this is the right path, when really it is what it is. And I think when we look at the two cards, that's actually a really powerful central card. Me trying not to be too open and crazy on the internet, but that is an incredibly powerful card. And then seeing these two others beside it, the moon, being like in touch with your intuition, your emotions, and knowing what's really right. And it's not reversed, so there's no disillusionment here. It's very clear. The path is clear. The King of Wands reversed, maybe hinting toward a little bit of burnout, or putting creativity in the wrong places. And I'm actually going to dive into the guidebook for the Mind's Eye Tarot, which is like a full color page and then the meaning. So it says, the King of Wands has his sights set on completing a goal. This card is all about going for what you want and achieving it without doubts or hesitation. The King of Wands is pure energy, and he is a natural born leader. Reversed, tyranny, viciousness, or unrealistic expectations, but I'm going to take it more about like reversed being like filled with doubts, having hesitation, or not going after what you want per se, or going after the wrong things, putting energy in the wrong places. So this is how I would read it. This is the message the universe wants to share with me right now. Pretty powerful, and I feel like it's one I'll probably have to sit with or do a longer reading with, but for today's purpose, I feel like it makes sense. So what I'm going to do, oh my gosh, I don't have much room on my table with all the filming stuff. I am going to write it down and write down what stands out to me, and then I'll come back and let you know. Okay. So what I ended up settling on was I wrote down the card, I wrote down the 2 tarot cards, and I wrote down a couple meanings. So for self-initiation, for the Solitary Witch Oracle, I wrote, dedicating self, quote, to the path, to the universe, to the service of others, to the fulfillment of her own soul's purpose. And then I added another quote about needing an expert opinion to validate you, and not acknowledging, and then I wrote the path, because I kind of tweaked the quote a little bit to how it made sense to me. Then with the King of Wands reversed and the Moon, I wrote down perhaps not staying true to self or not following one's emotions or desires, being filled with doubt, uncertainty, or hesitation when you should be following your dreams and intuitions. And then I wrote a little like comment or like, I guess, mini journal type of thing about what this might mean for me without going into too much debt. And I might add a little extra once we're off the video, but that is sort of how I do it. So this would be the message that the universe wanted to give me, which would be about this path, apparently. And I do think I've had a lot of questions about path, with the Fool also showing up earlier in a way the universe was enacting upon me. I kind of wonder if it's if that's part of the reason why the path is unclear or uncertain. Because I imagine, for anyone, when you're the Fool, you don't have all of the information yet. You don't have all the wisdom. And there is a new path. There is a new thing coming my way. And I'm not entirely certain what it is yet, but I am heading that direction. And then part of it makes sense because, you know, I know I'm stepping into motherhood, and I know I bring that up a lot. But part of me also wonders if it's something else. And I don't know what it is, but I guess I will find out. So yeah, for my nighttime readings, it's Influence of Angels, Solitary Witch, and Mind's Eye Tarot. So these are all very dark. What I actually really like too is, aside from them being certainly aesthetic together, the Sublime Thresholds Tarot and the Influence of Angels are both curated art decks, and I feel like it makes sense to have one in the morning, one in the evening. But yeah, this is an ever-evolving practice, and while I use these decks in particular for my evening practice, I can see myself swapping them out later. I could see myself swapping to the Endless Tarot again. I could see myself adding the Spacious Tarot to my morning readings, or to my evening, or something that's like a gentle affirmation to walk away with. The whole thing is constantly evolving, but this is sort of what I do daily, and it kind of looks like this, sometimes less pretty, sometimes it's just the words, like it looks like just this on the page, and I don't even like go fancy, I don't even write fancy, I just kind of write morning, and then write the things, evening, and write the things. And I sometimes don't even do the journaling, sometimes I just write what happened, and I move on. And it kind of just depends on how much time I have, how tired I am, what happened that day, and I just go from there. So don't think that this is how every single day looks. I did want to make it somewhat aesthetic and entertaining, but honestly, there are days where it doesn't look like this, and there are days where I don't even do an evening reading, or I don't do a morning reading. Like, I do only one or the other. There are whole days, especially recently around the holidays, that I didn't do any of it, and it just kind of works out that way. I will say there is also a weekly reading, which I will get to at some point, but I plan on doing a weekly video for you guys so you guys can see what I do, but it's not even weekly, it's like bi-weekly at this point, so you guys can see a bi-weekly ritual practice that I do with tarot. But yeah, hopefully this gives you some inspiration for your daily practice, and if you have any questions or anything, just let me know down in the comments below. But with that, I'm going to bed, so I hope you guys have a good morning, evening, whatever when you're watching this, and until next time, I'll catch you later.